Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is our first ever Teams Helping Teams workshop featuring two amazing teams, Team 33017, #Panda Powers, and Team 31636, Mind Builders. Thank you both for joining us today, and this is truly what makes these teams amazing, other than the fact that they qualified for so many events and championships and invitationals. These teams are working together and working with us to help build other teams up. And this is what makes this program itself such a wonderful program. First, that although we are all competing graciously and professionally, we are also helping to build each other up. My name is Hibar Tail. I am the program manager at Playing at Learning. And today it's going to be all about these teams, giving you more information about your season, your robots. So if you have any questions for Playing at Learning, leave them for me in the question box. I'll get back to you later, or email us at fll@playingatlearning.org. But for now, I'm going to leave the floor for these amazing teams. So let's go ahead with our first presentation.
Okay, let me just share my screen really quickly.
Yep. And in the meantime, I wanted to tell everyone that on this GoToWebinar, everyone will be muted. So if you have any questions for us, leave them in the question box or in the chat box, and we will try to answer them as soon as we can. And if we couldn't, I'll reach out to the teams and get you some answers. This webinar will also be recorded, so I will share it on our website after it's done. Thank you. Sorry, yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, so my name is Pratik Satish. I've been a part of FLL for around 4 years now. I have my teammates with me, Harshal, Rihanna, and Sonia. They're all right there. And we're gonna start off by talking about our robot. So obviously, this is our robot. There you can see all of the pictures here. Oh, hold on, sorry. You can see all the pictures here. It's a complex and sturdy robot. Basically, there's the main brick at the center, which is where you can see all your programs, all your commands, and you can basically control the robot. And so we start off with our wheels. Everyone knows about the wheels. It's how the robot moves around. So we have the monster truck wheels and we have caster ball wheels. We have monster truck wheels so that we can be accurate and we have proper speed on our robot. And we have the caster ball wheels, which are the metal ball wheels. By the way, can you guys see my cursor or?
Yes, we can. Keep going.
Okay, the caster ball wheels right here, and that's for easier movement around the mat, so we can turn and go into narrow spaces. So we also have right here, gear systems. Right at the top. Gear systems right here. So these gear systems are basically going to interlock or go into our frames, and so that they can basically they can move the attachments all around the table, and they can solve each of our missions. Then we're going to move on to each of our motors and each of our sensors. So basically, the motors as you can see right here, my cursor's right here, it has the medium motor. These medium motors are the ones that are powering our robot. And then we have our color sensors, which are very useful sensors we use. Each of these color sensors, they detect color on the mat. So if you look at the mat, there are multiple black and white lines. And each of those black and white lines, our color sensors are going to follow so that we can go in many paths, like straight or to the side. And we also have a gyro sensor, which is a sensor where we use to move around the robot and for accuracy and turning. And we mainly use the gyro sensor in each of our missions, but our color sensor is also mainly used. Next, we also have the large motors. These large motors are the ones that are powering our wheels. So basically, when our robot's moving forward, it's what our large motors are powering the wheels so that our robot can go in all directions and move around the table. And as you can see, we have a variety of colors outside of our robot, and this is for the outer frame, so we can follow along the wall, and we make sure that our robot doesn't get hit or nothing else falls out. It's very small and compact. It's actually like the length of your hand. It's very small, so we can go under narrow spaces or under bridges or anything like that. And we've been using this robot for, I think, the past 2 years now. And to continue on, we also have cable management. So when you're, some of you may know, we use wires for our robot so that we can basically connect the large motor to our main brick so we can power everything we do. And we have proper cable management, and we need proper cable management, otherwise it'll get stuck on many different mission models. Okay, so next we're gonna be talking about efficiency. Okay, so over here we have our efficiency, and as you can see at the top, efficiency for like running the robot and doing certain missions, it's improved by 43.6%. And these are each of the competitions. So we have we have around 4 runs in total to solve each of the missions on the side right here. So we have around this is for our qualifier round. We have around 40 points at 45 seconds. So it's around 1 point per second. For mission 2, it's 2.2 points per second. Mission 3, 5 points per second, and mission 4, 3.3 points per second. And we've maintained this throughout each of the rounds. Okay, moving on to the next slide. We've created spreadsheets for repeated testing for all the runs to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Obviously, things went wrong, so we had to fix our code, change the mechanical design a little. But if you'd like to see more, I can always go back. Okay, so right here we have our mission 1. So our mission 1 is our first run where we solve almost all of the missions. It's our highest scoring mission. So if you look at the frame we have, the picture of the frame you have here, it's going and moving around the robot. Like I said, it interlocks in the dog ear system at the front. It basically solves the slide mission. As you can see, that there's an arm attached to it. Using this arm, we can push over both of the slide men off the slide, and we even use it for other missions as well. And over here we use this so when we push into missions, and we can go back to the wall. And we also use this little arm here for our starting point to make sure our starting point for each of the missions is correct. So always have that at the beginning. And as you can see on the side, we used our gyro MyBlock, which is the program we used. And we had some inconsistency at the beginning, but later we changed that. Okay, so now we have solutions to our problems. So this is also mainly focusing on our mission 1 and our code. So let me just move this off to the side. All right, so finding white line. And this is using our color sensor. I said that, remember when I said like there are black and white lines all across the table? We'll use our color sensor to track we use our color sensor to track each of the lines so that we can go in the direction of each of the missions. So you want to make sure you always either use a gyro or your color sensor in the programs for repeatability and some good results. All right, now we're going to be moving on to the programming section. All right, so as you can, so right here is our master program. This is for our code. This is our main program. And actually, it doesn't impact on the missions we solve. It's just at the beginning. So whenever in competition we put down our robot, we already have our missions set up, so we don't have to go back and forth after every mission to say, okay, well, now we have to go to mission 2 quickly solve this. We can, after every program and after every mission, we can come back, click the button after using the starting point so that we can save time and basically ensure all the points. So here are each of the key my blocks. So just actually, I'm not going to go too much in depth about this, but I'm just going to talk about what a my block actually is. Basically, a my block is, and on our code, we have multiple blocks in our code, and sometimes it gets really long and we can't contain it. So we have different my blocks. So we condense all that code into one my block. This my block has all the code in it, and we can just put this one block into our code so that we can always not have to go through lengths and lengths and lengths of code to get to the final point where we need to make some minor changes, if that made sense. And as you can see inside here, each of our my blocks, we have our gyro sensor calibration, eliminates drift problems like the robot drifting away or moving away from the mission models. And then we have our accurate turn, our PID gyro, which is our gyro movements so that we can always be very accurate. And our accurate turn is different as typing. It's basically rotation and turning. Okay, so
I think this is a good point, a good logical point for us to maybe transition to the Panda Power team. There's a lot of details here that we probably can save time getting into.
All right.
So hopefully all the rookie teams got a better feel for, before I transition, right? I just want to make a few comments. Hopefully the teams got a better feel for the fact that you need a pretty compact, sturdy robot, which has the ability to power multiple attachments. You got to use your color sensors and your gyro sensors across most of the table, especially when you go to the far end of the map, because positional accuracy and correction using sensors is very important. And last but not least, you got to have a code that is simplified in the form of my blocks and grouped in a way that you can run them, execute them very quickly, and that saves you time between missions on the map, right? And that's how the mind builders pretty much have been solving, most of the missions in any given competition. Shishir, maybe this is a good logical time to turn it over to you before we start to answer questions.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, great. Annika, Ria, you want to show your video and jump on? Ria, are you there?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So let me get the right screen up here. No, that's not it.
So
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Shishir, just before you start, I had a question about the table, and my advice is to check a social.norcalafalal website, and it's a website that some teams that have aged out will be posting their tables to donate. So check that out if you are a team that needs a table. All right, sorry, Shishir, it's all yours.
All right, sounds good. So I'll let Annika and Ria mostly drive this. Annika, you want to start?
Sure. All right, so hi, my name is Annika. I'm a rising sophomore at Los Altos High School, and I was a part of the FLL competition series for 5 seasons. I just aged out this year, unfortunately, but I'm now taking this extra time to start a new project in helping rookie teams to learn more about what FLL is in general and how to succeed in this competition, right from the beginning. No need to wait a few seasons before you can get good. And then, so I'm obviously not on the team because I'm, a little too old for this now, but Ria, my sister, is a 7th grader, and she is still running #PandaPower, our team, along with a few of her friends. So she'll be competing throughout the season with you guys. But I'm going to be working from the background, helping with mentoring and coaching teams in the areas. So basically, we've been starting this project that we're going to be calling #PandaPower Robotics. And the entire idea behind this is to lead curriculum and some helpful tips and tricks for teams so that they can learn more about FLL through this. So do you want to just step through the website and we can look at some of the like important parts? Yeah.
Why don't we focus on the tracker?
Yeah, sure.
So lots of resources here, pandapowerrobotics.com, so it's easy to go to it, but I think they wanted to spend their time on this.
Yeah, I can. Ria, do you want to send it to everyone?
I don't think she can. I think only Hiba can.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever can do that, someone can do that.
I'll do that.
Yeah. All right. So we have been competing for 5 seasons now, and so we picked up a few tricks that we think are like the most key things to think about throughout the season. And one thing that has kind of always been a part of having a successful team is being very organized and coordinated within your own team, right? Because like if you're doing something and no one else knows what you're doing, it's very hard to come up with a successful robot or a successful project. So we've developed this team tracker template, which is basically your place to hold everything to do with FLL, like your season. So you can take notes on different meetings, write out milestones and goals, and we'll go more into what we've included in the doc, but it covers lots of different things from specifics about the robot, specifics about the project, and it even has a few of our own tips and tricks that we want to pass on to you guys.
Okay, so you want me to cover milestone next?
Yep.
Okay, so we won't have time to go through everything, but this is available. You can copy it and use it. They asked me to speak a little bit about milestones and goals. So at the start of each season, we'll fill in a set of milestones for each week, and overall milestones, the most obvious ones, whenever the challenge is released and whenever we think the qualifiers will start, and then where do we want to be with the robot, where do we want to be with the project, and some holidays indication. So a few key things I'd say about this. By the way, I'm Shashir, I'm Annika and Ria's dad, and I've been coaching the team for the past few years. A few things to say about this. Work backwards from the qualifier date. So it's not set yet, but I think they've said that it'll be in January. So we're just assuming that it'll be the first week of January, and if it's later, that's okay. We get a little more time. Second, account for holidays and vacations. Every year we forget that, oh, there's people are, this part of the team will be gone this part of the season and so on. And so if you just fill this in, you can account for that. Don't pick too many milestones. Some years we've come up with lots and lots of milestones, and it'll get very confusing and you'll fall behind and not feel good about it. And so we picked some very simple ones. The robot and the project have kind of different natural cadences. For the robot, the most important tip is make sure you leave plenty of time at the end for testing. We try to leave at least 4 weeks for testing. Inevitably every year, and as you can see from the Mind Builders, they did a great job of that as well. Everything will change when you start testing it and running back through multiple times. The project, on the other hand, is a lot more like building a company or a design project. There are sort of 3 distinct phases: a design and research phase, an implementation phase, and a sharing phase. And they all kind of take a certain amount of time. And so you have to make sure you leave enough time for each. And pick a milestone where you pick an idea, where you started prototyping, where you've started sharing with others, and sort of ready to go from there. So that's a little bit on as you're forming your team and just trying to come up with where you should be spending your time.
Shashir, we had some questions coming in about how do you keep your team excited and how do you divide roles among your team. So can you tell us a little bit from a coach perspective, how's that done?
Yeah, we'll actually talk about it in both the robot and the project section, but maybe on the keep the team excited, I think the main thing is just to make sure that there's clear progress every meeting. I think when you come through a meeting and you leave and you feel like, oh, we didn't get anything done, then that just doesn't feel very good. But if even one small thing gets done, everybody leaves feeling really excited. And so we try to make sure there's something that we're going to get done that's simple and is doable. So I think that one of the coach's main jobs is to try to encourage the team to pick a simple thing for each meeting that allows them to keep moving. But with that, actually, dividing up the team, I think, is a good topic for what we're planning to do is just talk through some of our tips for the robot, and then we'll talk about the project as well.
Yeah, so maybe I can talk a little bit about the project, and I can answer a little bit about how we like to split up the team to work on this as well. So again, just like with the milestone and goals, we've set up a list of like some main tips that we think might help you succeed a little easier throughout the season, right? So I guess we'll just start at the top. So overall, just like the mind builder said, reliability is like the #1 issue in the robot world. Like it's very like it's one thing to be able to build a robot that can solve tasks, but it's another thing to build a robot that can solve these tasks like 99% of the time. And when you go to a competition, everything's going to change, right? So you have to make sure that not only you can build something that's successful, you can build something that's reliably successful. So there's some ways that we think are like good tips to help you get to this. So one, have a dedicated board setup and just try and keep it clean, right? Having a cluttered area where you're trying to work is just, it distracts your mind from the task at hand. So try and keep what you're working on as clean as possible, and it'll help you focus and, you know, help you get more successful. Also, make sure you have like plenty of Legos and materials ready for you. The official like Lego Spike Prime kits and EV3 kits are really good, and they have a lot of really good pieces. But we found that as the season goes on, you kind of start to feel limited by the like lack of pieces that are in those kits. So if you want to like, I would encourage you guys to invest in like extra pieces that can help you just like take off that blocker on your creativity. Like you shouldn't really feel limited by how many Legos you have access to. More on like reliability. Focus on how many points you're scoring per second. So this is just like what the mind builders were talking about with efficiency. Like we only have 2.5 minutes on the table during the round. And although like at the beginning of the season that may seem like a lot, at the like on the competition day you're gonna feel like you have no time at all. Right? You're trying to solve as many of these tasks as possible. And one thing teams often forget is that you have to swap your attachments on the robot between every route. So just like the mind builders are saying, like we encourage you to use like a master program and have simple attachments, and just think about this, keep this in the back of your mind through the season to make sure that, you know, at the end of the season you don't come up with exactly 2.5 minutes of robot time and have no time to change your attachments throughout the game. So one way we like to make sure that we remember these things is by developing a good route plan. So at the beginning of your season, try and list out what tasks you think you can solve, or like you have ideas to solve, and try and group these by where they are on the board. We've built like a robot route plan like system that can help you sort these out. But just in general, try and at the beginning of the season come up with a good plan for what you want to do. As you're going, this will just help you check back and make sure that you're still achieving the goals you thought you were going to at the beginning of the season. And this is also a really great way to help split up work, right? So we found that splitting up work, there's usually 2 ways. You can either split by hardware and software, which a lot of teams do, or you can split by like route by route or mission by mission, which we tend to like a little better because that gives you a little more flexibility. Every team member gets to work a little bit on hardware and a little bit on software, and it just makes sure that the whole team is like staying involved. But those are 2 really good ways to split up the work. We'd also recommend like rotating responsibilities throughout the season just to make sure that everyone like kind of has a full comprehensive understanding of what's going on and isn't just like only knows about one thing and doesn't know about anything else. One thing that's really devastating throughout the season is if you lose your code, or if you make a lot of changes and you realize you didn't save your first version and now you kind of have to start over, right? So make sure that as you're going through the season, we like to save our code every time we work on it, like every day with a new date in the title, or you can copy your code into the doc, or you can set up GitHub, but just make sure that you have like running backups of your code so that you don't lose all of your precious work, right? It's a horrible feeling. Okay, these 2 are kind of like hush hush secrets that, you know, I'm gonna let you in on, right? You can leave stuff on the board. Like a lot of teams don't think about this. You can go push things onto the board and just leave them there. There's no rule that says everything has to come back home with you. So use this to your advantage to like take some of the stress off of you, to like you don't have to think about, you only really have to think about getting things there. You don't necessarily have to think about getting everything back home with you. So this is a really good way to like extend the amount of time you have and extend how many missions you can solve. Also, just in general, the entire FLL community is really, really nice, supportive, and like very, very open. And we have 2 really good resources that are run by most of the community, or most of the teams in the community. We have all over YouTube, people from around the world post videos of them solving mission tasks of their project, of different ideas they have for the robot. Use these to your advantage. We've learned a lot from teams on the internet. And even just watching all these videos can help spark your inspiration for how you want to solve a different task. There's also the First Inspires forums, which are like a little more formal, but a lot of teams go on here to ask questions about rules for the game or places that they can get materials. And lots of coaches are on here, and they all have really, really good experience and resources. So now maybe we can just take a quick look through all the pages we have on the robot. So we suggest at the beginning of the season to make a list of robot work items and continually add to this throughout the season, just to check on what you're doing. Make sure that you're also brainstorming as you're going. So as you come up with new ideas and you find videos or different things you find interesting, write them in here. At the end of the season, you're gonna have to give a presentation to judges about what you learned basically throughout the season. And just keeping track of what you're doing is a really great way to make sure that the judges can fully understand what you did this season. It doesn't seem like it just came out of thin air. We've left a few what are they called? Tricks or a few questions that we like to consider when we're designing our base robot. We agree with basically everything the mind builder said. Think about keeping things compact and what kind of power, your weight distribution. We've added a few more questions about robot design, materials, programming, all of these things that you can view in here. This is our robot route plan. This one, it's a little bit hard to understand when you first see it, but it's pretty simple. Basically, you can designate which tasks you want to solve in each of your routes, or every time the robot leaves base and goes to solve tasks, we call that a route. So you can designate which tasks fall in which route, and this can just help you see roughly how much time you're going to be using, how many points you're going to be scoring, and it gives you that cool calculation of points per second. So you can see how efficient are you really being with your time. And then
it's worth mentioning. I think this is the key. Doing this early in the season is the key to being able to divide up well. And also, Mind Builders talked about this. All the pro teams quickly figure out points per second is really important, and so being able to calculate it quickly has been really important.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
For sure.
Yes.
So to go on with what Anika said, last year we used GitHub, which is also another task and time management platform, and it was because we couldn't really meet in person. So that now we're still using that even though we can meet in person, and it's really helpful because we just planned out all our tasks on the first week of practice, and then we kept adding things, but we had buckets, so it had to do, in progress, and done, and we just kept moving it along, and then we would always have something in each bucket as we moved along, and that was really helpful to show to the judges, or even just to know what to do or what we have still not done.
Yeah. Keeping organized about the things you need to have done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Staying organized about these things is super, super important. All right, and then so this next page, do you want to show the one here?
Oh, you want me to show the real one?
Yeah.
This is last season's practice run tracker.
Yeah. So we're still working on developing the full instructions for the practice run tracker, but that'll be soon to come. So we'll just show what it looked like roughly last year. It's pretty simple.
Wait, I'm not the right one. I'll find it. Why don't you keep going and we'll come back to it.
Sure.
Actually, I got it.
Okay. So just like the mind builders were saying, testing your robot and rerunning it is the #1 best way to make sure that your robot works. You can build a perfect robot and it may work once, but that has no guarantees that it's going to work again. So as we're running, like we said, we like to set 4 weeks at the end of the season for this. We like to track what exactly our robot is doing. So we track things like attachment time, how long the robot was running on the field, how many points we were able to score, and we get these from our practice run tracker. We get these cool graphs that the judges really like to see, because it lets them know that you've been working hard on your robot and you've been making changes and iterating and brainstorming. So this is a really great tool to show to the judges. But it's also super, super helpful for you to understand what you're doing is working, if what you're doing isn't working, where you can make changes, and so on. So if you'll scroll down a little bit, yeah, you can see like everything that's red basically didn't meet the goals we wanted, and as the season went on, those red bubbles, when it loads, slowly started to turn more and more green. And as you can see, our robot started to get way more reliable as we kept practicing and making those small changes. Yeah. And then by the end, they became mostly green. Yeah. And then finally, like I said, at the end of the season, you're going to have to give a robot presentation to your judges, just basically encompassing what exactly you learned this season, what you made, what you did. And judges really like to see your progress. So make sure that you're taking good photos, you're taking good notes as you're going through the season. And I've included a quick template for the robot design presentation here, and a few questions that you can like think about before you go into the judging session, because these are commonly asked questions.
Okay, Ria, you want to talk about project?
Wait, maybe before we move on, should we see if there's any robot questions first?
Yeah. Actually, great idea, Annika. I think you had some people confused a little bit. So there's a question for you. Are we welcome to put Lego pieces on the board before or during the robot game? That can help your robot detect where it is and it needs to run. So I think probably some teams need some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
The actual game board itself is fully set up before you come. So you don't get to put anything actually onto the mat unless during the robot game, your robot physically moves it out onto the mat. So you can't add anything to the table unless your robot during the 2.5 minute time sticks something on the mat. So yeah, so this is our run from last year, I think, maybe.
All right, and just before that run, the mind builders also are free to kind of join in this one. There's a question saying, so every route has a change of attachment. How many attachment do you use?
Yeah, just at first, take the one about leaving something on the board. So you'll watch this. This was a sort of complicated one they did last year, but you'll notice that this whole thing get left on the board. And so the task last year was it had to move a treadmill, and they decided to use gravity to do it, which is kind of creative. But you'll notice this entire thing never comes back to base. That's what they meant by that. Can you answer the question on attachments?
Yeah, so I can actually answer that question. Hi, my name's Harshal. I'm part of the Mind Builders. I've done FLL for 2 years, now currently a sophomore in high school. So to answer the questions about attachment, at the end of the day, it comes down to how you decide to group your missions. We did it in a way where we solved about 3 to 4 missions per run. And every time we're finished solving those missions, we return to home base, switch out our frames, which contain all the attachments, and send the robot out for the next run. And it's honestly up to you based on your mission strategy and what you think you can accomplish in the given time. But at the end of the day, you want to think about how you can maximize the amount of points you get in 2.5 minutes. So you definitely do need to take the time to think about it, spend time looking over the board, thinking about how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. And at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. There's no set number that you have to accomplish. There have been some teams that don't return to home base at all, but there are some teams that return after solving 1 or 2 missions. So it's up to you.
That's a great segue for our next question saying, can the robot be run from the large inspection area or can it be taken back from there?
Yeah, maybe actually, I think Ria, you were going to show the attachments you guys used last year.
Yeah, so just as a reference, this shelf over here is all of the attachments we used. So we use a lot of attachments, but not every team has to use a lot.
I've seen lots and lots of successful teams that only have like 3, maybe 4 attachments, and they still score, at least half of the given points. We go a little overboard and have a lot of attachments, but you can totally go on either end of the spectrum. You can attach these all into one thing so that you have less, You can have lots of small attachments. We generally encourage to have, like the mind builders are saying, just like more frame shaped attachments, so you can move the entire thing at once instead of having lots of small moving pieces. But it's very subjective to each team.
Yeah, this was our route plan last year. One thing I was going to mention is that Panda Powers, every year they've gotten a little bit more advanced, but I would say especially, I know there's a lot of rookie teams on the call. You don't have to get this far. I mean, I think the typical, about, I think they will correct me if I got this wrong, but almost a third of the teams make it through the qualifiers. And I would focus much more on reliability than on points. But one thing I was going to point out is a common mistake teams make is that they have too many routes. Being able to switch between, it's very hard to switch between routes quickly. Kids get nervous, they drop something, there's too many things to attach. So I would encourage minimizing routes. And probably when you start, you'll solve one task per route. And then as the Mind Builders team said, you'll gradually work your way up and solve 3, 4, 5, 6 tasks per route. But initially, think about, can I solve one task in each route, or maybe 2 with a single attachment, and then come back around. And of course, if you can use the same attachment across a different route, that's even better. So less things to break, less things to change.
One thing to add for the rookie teams on the call as well, make sure that you read the challenge guide in great detail. There are a lot of rules and expectations in there, and they often change through the competition season. So I highly encourage everyone to read them, and that'll give you a better feel for how you want to group them, and that might change through the season.
Point, Satish. Yeah. There are already updates, so it's a great idea for rookie teams always to check the First Inspire website for updates for the game update. Here we go. Great,
yeah,
thanks.
If you haven't seen them before, these rookie updates look like they are very important. So, and they'll often be, if you watch on the forums, you'll see a lot of the questions pop up beforehand. But usually, if they issue an update, it was confusing. So, they're like here, they're clarifying that if you're hanging off the ledge but not touching, does it count or does it not? The other thing to watch for, and back to the other question about leaving equipment on the table. You can generally leave equipment on the table. You can't put it out there beforehand. So it's all after the time starts. And you have to read these challenges very carefully because, for example, let me find one that will say, they'll often say things like this one. It says, the turbine blade is touching only the boot holder and nothing else. That's their code for it can't touch anything that you brought to the table. So that you have to be very careful about those because teams make those mistakes and they show up at the competition and they don't realize it. So you can leave stuff on the board, and in many cases it can be left touching the task. But if it says this, for example, you have to solve this task without something holding it afterwards.
Yeah. And then I think there was also a question on if you can start the robot from the large inspection area. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can, I'm pretty sure, no. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure you can start it, you can only start it from the white mat area, semicircle, but you can pick up the robot when it's on the wood, on the actual table.
Not the whole white area, just that, where the line is.
Yeah, there's the...
Yeah, and watch these rules carefully too. You have to be in this quarter circle. And they will be watching for if you're hanging over the wall or hanging over the edge. And it's devastating for a team to be caught with that because they'll stop the round or they'll interrupt you and then your whole thing won't work. And so I wouldn't sort of bend around those rules at all or hope that they don't care. Assume that you can only start the robot in this quarter circle, but you can come back. So for example, in last year's board, you could come back this way as well as this way.
Right.
So there's a question coming in, actually a comment on a question. It says, great information, but what advice would you give kids starting, which are 5th graders? This seems to be slightly advanced level. So again, we don't want to overwhelm the rookie teams. And the teams with us today have been in the program for a couple of years. So maybe just kind of Ria, Anika, or the other team members, can you kind of maybe give those teams a feel of how you were feeling when you were a rookie team, and how it's fine to be overwhelmed, but still it's fun. And also I wanted to focus on the fact that the robot game is 25% of the whole the program. So basically, we need to focus on the other fun events, basically the innovation project, the design, and the core values. Maybe give us a feel of what that is, because I know the robot game is, because it's robotics and this is so much fun, but maybe we can talk about also the other and how it felt when you guys were rookie teams.
Yeah, that's the next section we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, why don't we switch to talk about the project? Maybe just one quick thing on rookie teams. I actually, the route plan we put in here, I think is a fairly simple route plan that could work this year. So I don't think you need to assume that you're gonna, if you had three routes with 1 or 2 tasks per route, you could probably do fine. But as Hiba pointed out, there are 4 parts to the competition. And so why don't we talk about the project? And the project is a fairly distinct and important part of, and a really fun part of the competition. So Ria was going to talk a little bit through this.
Yeah, so the project is kind of very similar in a way, but there's a bunch of different tips. So the first one is that you always have to divide up your work. Part of it is you want to make sure everyone's having fun, so you want to make sure that everyone's doing something, but you don't want to leave people out. So having one person doing it isn't very fun, because then people are just waiting there, and one person has to dedicate a lot of time to just doing it themselves. A way to help this is you can assign homework to team members, and they can work on it outside of the team meetings, and they can just do simple stuff like sending out an email. So another thing that helps is you always want to brainstorm your ideas. Because if you come up with one idea and you think, oh, we should do this, and then later, halfway into it, after you made everything, you find, oh, wait, this is such a better idea. And you realized, if I thought of that when we started, then I could have just done that idea. So you want to brainstorm your ideas to figure out if you have the best idea you can think of. And then you want to design your project fully before proceeding, just in case you change your design completely after you design it once, because then you'd have to design it all over again, and that takes way too much time, and that's unnecessary if you just design it fully. Another really big part is that you want to meet with experts. Not only is it part of the rubric, but it's also just very helpful to making your project. You can use the feedback that they give you to add on to your project and make it better, and even add like whole parts that they say that they want. And another important part is not only sharing with experts, is you also want to share with your friends and family to get even more feedback. Because experts aren't the only way to gather information, and I'm pretty sure that you can find a lot more friends and family than experts, so you'd get a lot of feedback on how to make it better. And since most of the judges in the beginning competitions are just parents, they can also give you a similar perspective as a judge. And one of the biggest parts is making a fun and engaging demo. Even if you have a really strong project, but you don't have a very good demo, then the judges won't get it, and they'll think, oh, I don't know what this is. I can't mark this good because I don't know what it is. So you have to make a really strong and engaging demo so that they'll pay attention. For example, you can make like a skit or add some jokes. Even little things to keep them interested will help a lot. And so like I'll take a look at the pages.
I think we can probably skip. Are there any questions on the project? See if.
Yeah, the layout for the doc is pretty similar to the robot. Kind of outlines the steps you can take throughout the season, all the way up until the presentation.
Yeah. And all of the tips I just did correspond to each of the pages. So.
I was just going to emphasize a couple things. One, the number 6 here. I think this is really important. I think the judges. I think sometimes working backwards from the demo can be very helpful. Sometimes kids pick projects that are very hard to explain even when they work. And the other thing is, back to point number 3, sometimes teams get fully working prototypes, but oftentimes teams just present the design. So you have to design before you prototype anyway, but you may end up presenting the design. And especially for the qualifiers, you'll see a lot of teams that are just presenting a design. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be feasible. The judges will be looking for, I remember our first year we did this, we had a project that was not at all feasible. We didn't really understand. But I do think it's just good design practice as well to do the design.
You know, the one thing that the Panda Power team is showing, you know, on this particular slide is meeting with experts. So don't underestimate how important getting feedback is. That's what the mind builders would do. We talk to a lot of experts, not just during the design and planning phase. We'd also talk to them more upstream in the development cycle, which is when we had ideas and we wanted to brainstorm and narrow it down to the project. We talked to experts in different areas, spanning all the ideas we had, and narrow it down to the one that we wanted to do. And then as that development happened towards building of the prototype, we talk to experts as well. So don't underestimate that phase.
Right.
Definitely.
Experts are really, really good at telling you like the current problems in the field and telling you, like, they can tell you about existing solutions, they can tell you about problems, they can tell you what they personally want. Like, I remember one year we went and we were lucky enough to get to speak to an astronaut, and she was able to tell us one of the issues that she had on the space station, and that ultimately led to our project idea. So like, even if you may even get ideas from the experts themselves, but they're really, really great sounding boards.
One more thing I would like to add, just encompassing the project in general. This is more focused towards the parents, but if you have a team that's consistent of very young students, try to avoid the temptation of doing things for them, because at the end of the day, you won't be there in that judging room to present for them. They have to know what they're doing and how they're going to present it. You can guide them along the way, but don't do anything for them. So help them out, give them ideas on how to do it, but don't do it for them, because they need to know how to explain it to judges at the end of the day. So yeah, make sure that you resist the temptation to do that.
Maybe to add one thing on from the coach's perspective on that, I think one of the things coaches need to be responsible for that is when your team will do some type of brainstorming. This is how we like to do ours. Everybody adds to a table and we vote them up and down and so on. The young kids are often fairly unrealistic about what they can achieve. And so one thing the coach can do is very gently guide them towards ideas that are a little bit more achievable. And you know, we'll end up with ideas that are, oh, we're doing space this year, maybe we should build a space shuttle. And it's like, well, that's an interesting idea, but it's probably going to be a little harder than is feasible. And so maybe you can dial back where you're headed. But yeah, if you find yourself in that situation of this team can't do it without an adult, then it's probably the wrong idea, and you have to guide your team back a little bit.
So a question came in saying, how do you recommend going about finding experts to talk to?
Okay, so since FLL is a pretty big competition, and since there's like 35,000 teams, I think, a lot of people know about FLL. So if you find some like email or something and you say, oh, I'm an FLL team, they'll probably respond because a lot of people know what FLL is. Like, for example, Amazon, I think, sponsored it this year. So Amazon knows a lot about it, and that's like really big. So a lot of big companies.
I'd say this is an area where I totally agree with the previous feedback on coaches shouldn't build products for people. On the other hand, with experts, I think coaches and parents can help a lot. I mean, there's a lot of cases where the students just don't know that they're allowed to ask. You know, that year we got an astronaut to speak with. Actually, we got 3 astronauts to speak with the kids, and you had no idea that was people that they knew. It's also worth mentioning this is like an opportunity for kids to meet people in other professions. I always try to get the people to talk a little about who they are and what they do outside of the project, just so you know it's a good opportunity. A lot of kids are not exposed to all these different professions. And then the other thing I was going to say is you can be fairly creative. I mean, this year the project is cargo, and you know, there's certainly hard experts to reach, but there's also, you know, probably everybody has at least one delivery driver on their street every day, or you know, there's lots of different ways to get to different components of that value chain. You just have to be a little bit creative on it.
That's a great.
Just to add to that, the way the mind builders would, we would reach out to friends, family, and you know, people in professions that we know through our network, and we'd reach out to them. And to Ria's point, most of them would be more than happy to help.
Yeah.
I wanted to cover a little bit the core values, and Shishir and Satish, I know that you've been coaching for a while, so how do you encompass basically and bring in the core values to the team and through your season? I know a lot of coaches would need some guidelines about this. So, you know, because it is part of the program, and it is something that is scored and the judges look for during the events.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Rihanna and Sonia, who are on the team, to join. But I think the way we think about core values, it's about the team working together as one unit, right? And typically what you will find is in the early part of the season, when you have a lot of new team members, like we did last year and even this year, getting to them to work not individually, but work together as a unit is probably most important. So maybe Rihanna, why don't you and Sonia talk a little bit, and then we'll turn it over to Shishir to see what they did on how we made the teamwork piece of it work together.
Yeah, so during the actual competition, they have a part where they'll ask you to do something for core values, where I think 2 years ago, our team had to like put together a certain structure, but like they didn't know what it was. The other half of the team had to actually like tell them. So during that exercise, it really has to bring out teamwork, because if your half of the team isn't able to communicate well with the other half of the team, it's really hard. So this year we were doing exercises like that, and then we also do just like trust, like team bonding and stuff. So we did a couple of it's where you connect hands with everyone, and you have to work together with like talking to each other, and you have to untangle yourself to get into a circle. And just exercises like that really help them to be able to talk to each other, especially if they're new to the team.
Yeah, to add on to Rihanna, along with doing like team bonding exercises, you guys can also like have fun together. So, and that's like a way to bring the team together. So, for example, last season, a majority of the team had a pet. So, like Rihanna has a dog, Piki, he has a dog, and so basically one Zoom, or we would try to get all of our pets on Zoom. And for like people who don't have pets, like I don't have a dog, but I have a stuffed animal, a dog. It's a Christmas themed dog. He's really cute. But so I would bring him onto Zoom, and we would all just kind of like play with our pets and stuffed animal, and it would be really fun to like talk about them and stuff. And so that was the way our team bonded.
Yeah, I think our team, one thing we always have to think about is like making sure that the team is good at communicating with each other, like both for the core values aspect and just for the competition in general. If like people are not willing to talk to each other, it's very hard to get things done. So I totally agree, like doing things outside of practice that are not even necessarily like FLL related, like just, oh, we're gonna go watch a movie, or we're gonna go to the park and like, I don't know, what do you do? Throw a ball around? I don't know. You know, like doing something together, just with the team members, can really help to like generate those bonds that make it so much easier to work throughout the season. And then when you ultimately get to the competition, like everyone's so nervous, and it always tends, like these competitions just tend to bring out the really like stress side of people. So I think in general, just working on remembering that like everyone's stressed and everyone's nervous. You don't need to take it out on each other, and like being nice to each other, especially in front of judges, is always going to pay off. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Annika. So I think Rihanna mentioned something about the exercise or the game that you used to do in core values. That was 2 years ago. So that's not basically happening, did not happen last season, this season. So what will happen is that the judges in the judging session, which is a 30-minute session, there will be a core value judge, which will be watching and basically expecting the teams to demonstrate the core values that Shishir put on the website, that the screen that you can see right now. So, and Annika hit a really good point, which is the gracious professionalism, which is scored this year. And it's the behavior of the team, and the interaction of the team around the table and with the ref. And this is something that the the referees get to score, and the score goes to the core value judging this year. So basically, you have to demonstrate your core values and your gracious professionalism throughout your tournament, throughout your season. So which is very important, and which is what makes first, I guess, right?
Yeah, I was just going to add. I mean, I love the ideas from the Mind Builders team. I think we should try some of those things. One of the big changes that's happened over the years is what Hiba just mentioned. Core value used to be more of like a distinct session, and nowadays they judge it like when they did it online, they did it across all the same judge sat while you did the other presentations. And I assume when we go back in person, they're gonna do something similar. And so it's not just, you can't sort of do it for 10 minutes and be done. Like they'll be watching, does the team really operate in that way? Are they inclusive? Do they look like they're having fun? You know, I wouldn't stress too much about this. I think if you do the other stuff well, then this will happen naturally. You know, teams that do good teamwork probably do better in general. But I think that's just a change from the previous years.
To add, it really does show, like what he was saying, as you go on through the season, don't always think about this, but always have it like somewhere in the back of your mind. Like you do need to show it, but like if you're working well with your team, it will just show naturally. So I guess like last year in the judging sessions, there was 3 judges, and then one of the judges would like just talk to us and be like, you did this well, but like, and then he would also like watch us as the way we talk, like if we weren't interrupting people, or just the way we were able to speak and like finish each other, I guess.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, and I haven't looked at this website in a while. I just realized how they did this. They moved competition and gracious professionalism to the top. I think these two were very surprising to us early on. The competition is very geared towards teams helping other teams, and how they treat other teams. It's not just how you treat your own teammates. It's also things like, you know, how do you help other teams? And sometimes that's like overt actions where you can go do things with another team. Every year there's a shared task so that you can try to accomplish together. It's how, you know, when we're back in person, the teams all have to share practice tables. That's always a very tense time because everybody wants to get on the practice table. So I think about how you're treating each other, but also it's probably worth having a conversation with the kids of when you get to the competition. The expectation here is that we're all here to help the other teams, not to beat the other teams. And so that I really like that term cooperation as a way to think about it.
Yeah, so it's cooperation and competition together. So
yeah.
It's a mouthful. I also wanted to tell the rookie teams that the rubrics are a great help to see what the judges are looking for. So, you know, core values is a little bit ambiguous because if there's no exercise, what are they looking for? So do check out the rubrics. They're, you know, I call them your cheat sheet. So basically, you know what they're looking for, and it helps you kind of, you know, understand what is it that the program is about. So please do take a look at the rubrics.
I also just wanted to add that core values is not something you can like fake. A lot of teams go in thinking, oh, if I just make sure that I do this, then I'll be doing core values. But the judges can tell if you actually spend time together and you're actually being nice to each other, if you're just faking it. So you actually have to spend time with your teammates and like do those kind of exercises to build relationships with your teammates.
Yeah, I think often in our judging sessions, judges will ask about things that are not FLL related. Like every time it somehow comes up, then Rhea and I are related. And so they always ask about our sibling dynamic, or like if you have friends on the team, like what have you done together outside of FLL? Like they kind of want to understand the bigger picture, not just at this competition, what are you like, but more throughout the season, how do you guys interact with each other? Are you like kind to each other? Are you inclusive? Are you very like they don't do anything, we do everything, like us against the world? Like, you know, all of these different things kind of come out really, really focused in these sessions. So
I just wanted to show, Hiba mentioned something, and I know that as a coach I hadn't seen this until we went through our first competition. They published the actual rubric. So this is on the FLL website, and this is what the judges will be using and filling out for each team. And so I would read this very carefully and just pick, like Rhea said, Many of the judges are parents, that are coaches just like you guys. So read through this and think, if I was watching the team, how would I score this? And they have one set for core values, another set for the project, another set for design. And when we say the competition is 4 parts, what that means is that there's these 3 rubrics plus how you do in your robot game score. And those 4 scores together are your sort of overall score for the competition. But I do think it's very important to read through the rubrics and understand, oh, that's how they're going to think about it. It may even help the kids if you go through it, just teach them what some of these words mean. Like, what does it mean for the project to have gone through iteration, and how do you make sure you're covering that when you go through your project presentation, or what they're looking for. Did people learn new skills? So that's like, how did you just sort of have in their heads how they should be thinking about these things? Many cases, especially young kids, they don't even know what some of these words mean. And so you just have to walk through it with them so that they know when they're being asked a question in that direction.
And I just wanted to add that to our presentation thing, where we said the presentations are very important. If you're planning out like a slide deck or something like that, structure it in the form of the rubric. It helps the judges understand what you're going for and like what your project actually is. That way they can understand and they can grade yours like how it actually is.
Yeah, I think one question that was asked earlier that I think we may have accidentally skipped over is, this competition's, it's a lot. There's 4 sections and a lot is going on. And for young kids, like, this is something that often seems very unattainable. And I still remember when I started, I was in 5th grade. I was so lost. Like, I barely even knew what was going on. I really just saw it as a time for me to hang out with my friends. Like, I didn't even understand we were going to a competition until we showed up and like saw other teams. I was like beyond lost. But like, once we got through that first competition and got to see other teams running their robots, like we got to hear other people's presentations, it just made me like understand how like real world this really is. Like, all of these kinds of skills you learn through this, like, oh, how do I participate in something graciously and professionally? How do I show that I'm having fun to other people? Like, I don't want to walk around looking like I don't want to be here. This is the least exciting thing I've ever done in my life. How do I convey to other people that this is something I'm genuinely interested in? And I think when you can do that at these competitions, you've like actually understood the purpose of FIRST. FIRST is something it's not really about the competitions. It's way more about like your experience going through these things. And for teams that are just starting, I would really recommend take it slow. Like, I think this year they're adding like a recreational league, basically, where you're not like actively competing for the like international championships, which I think is a really, really cool idea, because you get to just learn what the community is like, and you get to go meet new people, and you get to like maybe dabble around in making a little robot that gets to go drive out on a board on its own and solve a task and score points, or you get to make a project and talk to some cool experts. And so even just starting with very small steps, like maybe solving 4 tasks this entire year, that's still so much more than not doing it at all. So just taking those like small baby steps, and like my dad said, like having one small thing you accomplish at every meeting gives that like instant gratification that kids here are so like addicted to. Like, if you get that little boost that, oh, I did something today that was really productive, it just brings you so much more energy for the next time you meet, and you're just so much more excited to keep doing it in the future. So for coaches, I totally agree. I really encourage, like, make sure the kids feel like they're doing something, even if it's something like insignificant, even if it's so small. As long as it feels like they're doing something, they're so much more likely to be enthusiastic about it.
And also, just to add to that, it's not only like doing stuff. I would encourage them to like add extra stuff, like making t-shirts or having a mascot. Like, we got a panda costume so that one of us could be the mascot and wear a panda costume for the whole day, because that's what our team was.
Yeah. It's really all about having fun and going through the experience.
That is a great note to end on. Mind builders, I don't know if you have anything to kind of sum up this great session today.
No, I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to share some of the things we did. I think we've seen Panda Power in the competition field, and we've enjoyed seeing them in competition. It's good to see them on video and collaborate on this session. So thanks for the opportunity to participate.
Yeah,
Awesome.
big plus one. And like Annika was saying, I think part of the reason we did this is I've just seen some kids that have really gotten to open up their eyes through a competition like this. And though it can seem daunting, and you can take it pretty far, it has, I like to say it has a low floor and a high ceiling. But I think just getting people set up and, like you said, it really celebrate you just made a robot move across a board by itself, or you just got something, a project built that nobody thought was possible. And I guarantee the kids will feel a positive feeling out of that and take it through other parts of their lives.
Awesome. Well, and I'm going to second what Annika said about, having the recreational league versus the advancing league. We did mention that 20 to 30% of the teams do advance to championships, but as a rookie team, I think basically you should use this time to get to know each other, get to know the program. So if you are interested in more time and a more less competitive environment, more friendly environment, then the recreational leagues will start in April. The advancing league, as Shashir mentioned earlier, it will be in Jan. Registration will start in November. I will send everyone more information as the season goes along. But for today, I want to thank both teams. Thank you so much for this all information. I will send more information about next Sunday and what we will be hosting for next Sunday. I think it will be a bit more technical. Maybe you want more questions coming in about the robots. And then I guess, and that's it. I hope everyone has a great Sunday. Stay cool. I know it's a very hot day today, and have a great Sunday. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.